Welcome to Energy Matters to You, March 22nd, 2018 edition. The Energy Matters to You podcast is a communication platform that features technologies and thought leaders working to advance energy efficiency. The Energy Matters to You podcast seeks to connect buyers with sellers so that practical, cost-effective energy efficiency and sustainable energy solutions continue to gain market traction. We're your host. My name's Leo Ryan. I'm here with my co-host, Ron Galuli. Ron, good to have you back on the line.
Thanks, Leo. It's good to hear your voice, and I'm glad we dodged this last nor'easter and didn't get much snow out of it.
No, it's going out like a lamb. Month's going out like a lamb.
Yeah.
So, Ron, we often talk about other sources of information that we draw information on, some of the podcasts we listen to, some of the conferences we go to. But you and I were talking recently about Utility Dive as a place to get some news. And I want you to bring us up to speed on something you picked up in a recent edition about charging stations.
Sure. Yeah, I get their daily news feed. And then, one topic that was interesting to look at last year was the Massachusetts utilities taking a collaborative approach to EV or electric vehicle infrastructure. Massachusetts expects the EV industry to grow very rapidly, but the utilities are trying to grow along with that so that the proper infrastructure is available for when the EVs do expand.
We've got a guest today, Mike Pace from Horizon Energy Services, who's going to join and talk a little bit about that. Why don't we do that? Why don't we welcome him on right now? Mike, good to have you on Energy Matters to You.
Well, thanks very much, Leo. Really appreciate the time and coming on board, and great to hear from both you and Ron. Known you guys for quite some time, and really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you and Ron walked the hallways of National Grid a few decades ago. Isn't that true?
Ron wins the award for me being his employee in two different companies. So I will get him that trophy someday, sooner or later. But yes, I did have a great privilege to work with Ron at both Horizon and National Grid.
That's great. So after your time at National Grid, you moved on to Horizon. Can you tell us a little bit about the kinds of things that you do for Horizon?
Sure, yeah, happy to. Horizon Solutions, I came aboard as an engineer in the Energy Services division of Horizon. Horizon's an electric distributor, been around since a little bit before the Civil War, kind of evolving throughout that time to sell and distribute and provide services for a variety of different products, mostly electrical-centric for industrial automation, primarily around the Rockwell, Allen Bradley product line. I work in the Energy Services group, and I've had a bunch of different roles in the group. I manage the group now for New England. And one of the things that we've had a great opportunity to become is partner with ChargePoint. We are a signature reseller and installer for them. We took this partnership online with ChargePoint late last year, and really rolling hard this year to bring electric vehicle charging stations to the market.
Ron, can you give us a little background on what the utilities approach has been and looks to be in the near future with regard to electric vehicles?
As best as I understand it. And by the way, I know, Mike, you guys have a close relationship with ChargePoint. I was mentioning to Leo that, it's that Mass Maritime Mafia connection with John Gilbrook, who works at ChargePoint. We all worked together at Grid at one time. So it's good to see that it's alive and well. But when the utility describes or categorizes make ready, that's the infrastructure that's needed to accommodate for charging stations. So all the distribution network type of equipment and services that would enable these charging stations to actually be able to work and charge vehicles. So the thought was to be able to expand that infrastructure, and by granting the utility approval to get a return on developing that infrastructure, the thought was they'd be able to develop that system wide very quickly to meet the growing demand. Otherwise, that's where I think the bottleneck would be. So, Mike, you guys are directly involved with both, I believe, Eversource and National Grid in moving those programs along.
Yeah, we've been a vendor of both utilities in the energy efficiency side of the business for quite some time, number of years, probably about 11 or 12 now. And this is a new advent for the utility to, I'll take a step back. I had a conversation with our staff here on a webinar, And some folks that have known me for a long time have said, hey, Mike, you've been proselytizing and preaching about people reducing their energy. Now you're telling me to increase their energy with charging stations. And I thought it was quite funny. And I would phrase it a little different. I would say charging stations are a more efficient way to power your vehicle. So the basic concept of efficiency kind of carries through. But yeah, we're involved with both utilities to develop the marketplace for charging stations. And you'll hear a term in the future, Ron mentioned it already, called make ready. And that's a little bit of a new term for a lot of folks. And basically what that is, it's all the infrastructure needed from the building underground to a concrete pad, so you can just place a charging station on top of it. So it's basically everything around that to basically just put a charging station on top of a concrete pad and have all the electrical and safety stuff needed within that ready to go. It's called make ready. Yeah, they kind of have the same nomenclature for solar and backup generation. As you build all the infrastructure to support either backup generation or solar, there's a point that connection point that the product has to meet the building's infrastructure, and that's the make ready piece.
And is there anything particularly challenging about the EV make ready infrastructure?
No, it's basically basic electrical. A typical charging station requires 30 amps, two 30 amp circuits. If you have two cords attached to the station, and you just have to run a new electrical feed from the panel, leaving the building underground. Hopefully you won't have to do too much trenching, as we call it, and then bring that right to the make ready spot. And
so who are the kinds of people that Horizon is approaching about this infrastructure, this make ready infrastructure?
So there's a variety of market segments that have a huge benefit for electric vehicle charging. And to look at a macro level view, the estimation is that by 2025, 25% of the vehicles entering the marketplace will be electric in some way, shape, or form. And there's three basic types of electric vehicles. You have your traditional hybrid, which is kind of like that Toyota Prius that we've had forever, and that relies on a lot of regenerative braking to get your efficiency improvements. Then you have a PHEV, the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, which has both a electric motor and a gasoline ICE internal combustion engine. And that's kind of the best of both worlds. And then you have the true pure electric vehicle. So that's your Tesla Model S, your Chevy Bolt with a B, that rely 100% on electric generation. Now, like I said, through those three tiers of products, the estimation is that by 2025, a quarter of the vehicles sold will be has some electric component to it.
Do you have a sense of where we are currently?
Yeah, I do. It's a pretty wild marketplace. I don't know if they've broken 1 million electric vehicles in the U.S. sold just yet, but they're pretty close. As of September 2017, they're at 710,000 electric vehicles in the U.S. And the trend line has been very steep in that the expectation was at least in the first quarter of 2018, we would break over 1 million.
Can you take
that data in front of me, but that's the expectation.
Yeah, can you take that 1 million number and give it to a percentage? What percentage of new vehicles sold does that represent? Is it less than 5%?
It's still small. It's still less than 5%. It's still very small, but the trend line relative to other vehicles, the trend line is much steeper.
Okay.
So there's a big uptick in the marketplace quite a bit.
Now,
and I think at this point there's about 50 different types of vehicles in the U.S. that have some type of electric capacity to it.
Now, Mike, the Make Ready project and Horizon Solutions to the marketplace are not in selling vehicles, but putting in the infrastructure to allow for the charging of these vehicles. And I'm wondering,
exactly right.
what types of businesses or locations are the highest priority, the best fit for the EV charging infrastructure?
Yeah, you bet. There's three different types of EV charging. Very simple. Type 1, 2, and 3. Type 1 is a standard plug that you have in your house, 120 volts, and that can charge your vehicle in about 12 hours. Type 2, which is more of a commercial, municipal, mixed-use type option, is 208 volt charging, and that'll charge your vehicle in about half that time, so about 4 to 6 hours. And then Type 3 is a DC fast charging. The DC fast charging can charge a vehicle in about 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how much capacity is left in the battery. And those three different products kind of fit three different market segments within business. Vast majority of folks are going to look at that. In the residential world, they may look at that type 1 120 volt plug. That's really overnight charging. So you come home at night, you plug your car in, you wake up the next morning, your car's ready to go. That's that type of solution. Type 2 is going to be, in my opinion, the biggest fit for the marketplace. And the verticals that would really benefit well are retail, commercial properties, multifamily. And then the Type 3, which is the DC fast charging, that's going to be more for your fleet charging and charging stations that are along major throughways, like on the Mass Pike, on 128, stuff to that effect, and really more of a fleet type solution.
That's a great overview, Mike. Hey, Ron, let me ask you, in all the industrial and commercial clients that you're bumping into, do you see this discussion and evaluation of the different charging solutions, the Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 in your customers?
In my travels, I haven't seen that many customers talking about it. There's still, there's buzz about solar, obviously, and storage. But what I noticed, Mike, is when I look at the schematic here, the filing, there's a lot of moving parts here, Mike. And you mentioned earlier that one of your specialties is actually coordinating the whole process, if you will, for the customer to be able to participate and the utility to be able to participate in matching them together to actually make this happen.
Exactly right. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to this. Horizon, my group, is traditionally focused on the energy efficiency side. So going into a building, finding ways to improve your facility that reduces your energy usage, develop a real true return on investment. This is a little bit of a different take on that, in that you have a lot of different facets that are coming in that potentially could increase your electric usage. So you got to kind of do it in a way that makes sense and gives you that solution you're looking for that provides an electric vehicle charging station so you can charge your vehicles, but also mitigate any potential increases in electrical usage by doing some energy efficiency at the same time.
Hey, Mike, Ron brings up a really interesting point. The three of us have been involved in energy efficiency for a long time, and no project is ever easy. There's always a whole bunch of cat herding that needs to take place, and there's obstacles at every potential aspect of the project. Can you give our listeners an idea of what are some of the biggest challenges or hurdles or objections that you hear from customers and prospects as they're moving through the process of making ready a site?
Yeah, the biggest thing I think people need to understand is the farther away you place the EV charger from the point of source of electricity, meaning the electric panel in the building, the more money it would cost to get all the necessary electrical infrastructure to the charging station. So you have to bring a trenching machine, dig trenches. You may need to go through pavement, stuff to that effect. So being aware of that and finding the right location where you want it and recognize the cost associated with that is critical.
Okay.
For a lot of folks.
Yeah. And when you're selling them, what are the benefits of installing the stations?
Yeah, the benefits are great. So if you're a retailer or in hospitality, so hotels and stuff to that effect, you want to obviously increase visits and get people to come to your facility for a longer amount of time. If you're a retailer, you want to have them increase their shopping baskets. If you're in hospitality, you want to have them stay for as long as they can.
Right.
So this is another avenue to do that. Think about a mall, like a traditional mall. Not a lot of folks go to a mall anymore. This is another way for mall owners to get people into their mall buying things for a longer period of time. Same deal with typical hotels. If you have an electric vehicle and you need a place to charge it and you're on the road, you're going to go to the hotel that has the electrical charging station. So those two things benefit hugely. In the workplace, it's an interesting economics. A lot of younger millennials want the option of electric vehicle charging. The benefits financially for a person who owns an electric vehicle are huge. You can save, depending on your driving habits and the type of vehicle you have, you can save between $5,000 and $2,000 a year by switching to a vehicle. So that's a great benefit to companies to keep and retain workers. And then obviously companies always have sustainability goals. This is another way to achieve that, another avenue for that.
Now, do you anticipate that over the next year, 2 years, that most of the installations will be in Type 2 and Type 3 installations?
I think most of the installations will be Type 2. Type 3, we've gone to a number of customers to review that. And the challenge you have with Type 3, there's two parts of there's a lot of upfront capital that needs to happen. the DC charging station order of magnitude can be, $50,000 or so just for the equipment for the DC charging station. And then when you think about all the infrastructure you need to add to that, the DC charging station can draw 50 kW. That's 50 kW. And you need a lot of infrastructure improvements to the building that can be cost prohibitive.
Right.
So those are the kind of hurdles that a lot of folks are evaluating right now for the DC charging type system.
Before someone launches in, what are the kind of the things that they want to know? So when they approach you, they're informed and ask the right questions and can give you the background that you need to help them figure out if an EV charge station makes sense for their need.
It's a great question, and one that I always start with the same discussion. All EV charging stations, no matter what they are a plug. It's the same. It's a different style of plug that you have in your house, but it's a plug nonetheless. The real value to folks that choose ChargePoint is the data that you get from ChargePoint. One of the things that people need to think about when you put a charging station in your facility is, okay, when someone's done charging, how do I make sure that they know they have to move their car? How do I find out how much utilization the charging station is being utilized at? What types of vehicles are coming to it? All those different pieces of information that are so oftentimes overlooked and not thought about, because this is a new technology and this is new to a lot of folks. So I always tell folks, look at what ChargePoint provides from a data acquisition, all the different nuances that come with that around the plug, so to speak. And that's the value, I think, for a lot of folks with ChargePoint. I always tell folks, if you just want a plug, just put a plug in the wall.
Yeah.
But if you want the information around that, all the different pieces of information that comes from the ChargePoint system, then that's the value to them. So you got to think about how you want to use the system, why you want to use it, and what you want to get out of it before you kind of go too deep into it.
Right. Good. Ron, we started our conversation today by talking about the utility dive piece and what they had summarized about National Grid and Eversource and the policies they've put forward in these make-ready programs. Ron, are you seeing anything in the way of incentives that are being provided by the utilities for the make-ready infrastructure?
They do mention the incentives in the program. And Mike, do you know any particulars about those incentives and how they can help the customer out?
Yeah, there's a variety of incentive buckets that are available to customers both today and then shortly in the future. The incentives provided from the utility, I think, are going to be flushed out a little bit more, but they will provide some level of financials to support the infrastructure for EV charging. To what extent, I'm not fully certain yet, but there will be something there. The incentives that are available at the state level from the DOER, the Division of Energy Resources, provides up to 50% of the hardware cost for EV charging. So that's the actual physical charging station itself. And that's available at the DOER's website. You can get more information from that. And then with the recent tax bill that passed late 2017 that went into effect in 2018, there is some depreciation benefit for capital improvements that end users can leverage to make the finances much more attractive.
That's great. Well, clearly this is an area of great growth, and Horizon Solutions is in a position and I think the utility dive piece that Ron was referring to talks about a 50 times increase in the number of zero emissions vehicles on the road. So clearly a spot for growth. Mike, are there spots besides the Horizon Solutions website that you suggest people go to get more information about evaluating their own need and application for electric vehicle charging stations?
Yeah, you bet. ChargePoint.com provides, if you go into ChargePoint.com, there's a bunch of links there that provide the latest and greatest incentive programs by state. And that allows folks to kind of see what's available to them at a statewide level. And they update that, ChargePoint updates that regularly. So it's a great resource that I leverage quite a bit. From that website, you can also, when you navigate to the individual state websites, each state website has some great information on their programs for electrification of vehicles. Great way to start and really kind of cut your teeth on that.
That's great. Well, good. Well, we do want to keep these in the 15, 20-minute time frame, and you've certainly filled us up with plenty of good information. So Mike Pace, sales manager, and so much more for Horizon Solutions. Appreciate you coming on.
Guys, thanks so much for having me.
And Ron, always a pleasure to have your perspective.
Thank you, Leo. And Mike, I was just trying to confirm the rumor that Horizon would be buying you a Tesla to be able to walk the walk, talk the talk, so to speak, when you do your customer visits. Is that true?
I would fully support that rumor, but it is a rumor at this time. If you have any leverage with the owners at Horizon, please put in a good word.
Okay. Well, I hope it does come true.
You and me both.
That's great. Well, Mike Pace, thanks again. Horizon Solutions, best of luck. We'll be tracking you and wish you great success.
All right, thanks so much. Have a great day. Really appreciate it.
Big thank you to all the folks who have taken time to download and listen to the Energy Matters 2 podcast. Got a few hundred folks who've downloaded them, and it's a growing community. In fact, we've got nearly 100 folks on the LinkedIn page following us as well. Ron, any updates that we should pass along as we close out today's episode?
Well, Leo, as we talked earlier, we have been producing about an average of about 3 a month now. So we're hoping to grow the listener base. And if you have any ideas or would like to be on the podcast or sponsor the podcast, please let us know. That's great. So yeah, we always appreciate feedback, interested in your suggestions about topics and guests. So for Energy Matters to You, this has been Leo Ryan and Ron Galuli. There's work to be done. Go make a difference.